With you in 1 second. I just need to be able to start my computer so I can have a little scope today about negotiations. I've actually been a little bit stir crazy today and decided, what the heck? Oh my God, volume. All right, are there anybody there? I don't see anybody chatting. Oh, this is not good. I see a heart. I don't see any chat coming up here. Oh, there it is. I see it. I can read. Oh my God, what a novel change. I need different glasses though. Hey, can I crush a grape? I can actually read this. My God, what a novel change. Okay, well, these are going to be slightly delayed as far as my responses go. But anyways, we decided that since I had some free time that I would do a quick scope about negotiations. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Megan, also known as MistressXmas. And this is the Ruthless beside me, and we have both been in the BDSM lifestyle for, well, at least for me, over 25 years. And so we have a little bit of experience with this. And so as far as negotiations, what that means is primarily when a Dom and a sub get together the first time, you need to establish some basic rules, is like what we are going to do and what's okay and what's not okay. So that's what we're going to talk about. So Charles and I do this very differently, and probably everybody does this differently. And hopefully, John, if you're on here, hopefully you can jump in and give your opinions on this, because you probably deal with more newbies than I do. For me, nearly all of my subs come from, they're usually members of an organization that I belong to, or they go to the munches, so they've been playing for quite some time. They know who they are, they know what they like, what they don't like, and so establishing guidelines for playing is actually much easier for me. And when I do demos, for example, with absolutely new people, I limit what I do so much that really I don't really need negotiations, because there's no way I'm going to do anything that's going to be a problem for the most part. So basically my way of negotiating is conversation, and being friends with a person before ever playing with them. But Charles does it slightly different. He does a negotiation kind of form, and I don't know if he does contracts or not, but he's going to talk about his first. So take it away.
I use forms for a number of reasons. I do a lot of newbies, or people who've never really played much. Are people who I've never played with before.
Charles is my Dom.
So what I'll do is I will email them a copy of the form, have them fill it out. I'll then take it and go over it. Unfortunately, it's the older form, so it doesn't have everything on it. Things I look for, and I really stress this, is I always ask, and I'll ask this a couple of different ways, hidden medical problems. I've had people I've run into who've had blood clots in their lungs, hepatitis, HIV, any number of problems they might not talk about, glasses, injuries, psychoses and fears. I had one person I played with, had been around for a number of years, or a year or so. I didn't know they were afraid of knives. I do knife play. They never mentioned that they had a fear of knives, and it freaked them out. I had to change our style of play. Another thing I ask for is language syntax. What can you say and what can't you say to someone? There's no way faster to kill a scene than to say the wrong thing to someone. I mean, it can be as simple as simply saying, "Oh, you're a good girl." And if you've had somebody has had abuse issues, that can be like throwing a bucket of ice water on them. Make sure you find out if there's any buzzwords they do or do not like, especially the dislikes. I want to know how long they've been in the scene.
I know somebody that has a word that they don't like, and the word might be sassy. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, they language also depends on I've worked with thank you very much, you blew my train of thought.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
I've worked with a lot of African American and black women of various ages. And there again, you have to be careful of, and some of these were non-American women. What I could say or imply to the non-American women was totally different than I would say to somebody who was American. I had a woman from Trinidad. There were certain buzzwords that people from America had problems with. She had no problem with it. The term I was thinking of is master.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just reacting to what people are chatting.
So I would have to. You have to adjust your language. That also length of play. How long have they been playing? Do they know what they're into? If they don't, then you have to ask them. Be careful when you ask somebody questions. You will get subs, male and female, who they think they want to please you, so they will tell you whatever they think you want to hear.
Yeah, I've run into that too.
And that's a real headache because do you like this? Yes, I like this. Well, in eventuality, they don't. They hate it. But they think you want to hear that from them. If I've got something I'm not sure about, I'll ask the question again. I'll ask it in a different way. The form I have, which is not the short one, I'll ask some questions 2 or 3 times, different ways, different places. When I do use the form, I use highlighters, and I get their copy, do a printout on it. Anything, there's a certain section of, on a scale of 1 to 5, whether or not you like it, or you don't like it, or you don't know.
How do you decipher whether they are being truthful?
Well, once they get the form back and I go through it, then we sit down and talk, and I watch for their body language. You can see how they'll respond. Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. And that's hard. But what I'll do is, like I said, I take the form, I go through with a highlighter. Anything that is a hard no or a hard limit, I highlight in red. Anything that's a maybe question, I'll highlight in yellow, and then I'll highlight anything that's not a question in green. So when we do play, I'll go through the form and look at it. Anything that's green is what we will do, especially on the first session. After I play, give them a day or so, contact them. Then I go over again and ask them how they felt. What did they like? What didn't they like? What they want to try again. People's tastes change, and it can change greatly. What you start off liking or disliking might change in 6 months. Your level of intensity might change in 6 months, or even a couple of play sessions.
Somebody asked a question about how they get more involved in the New York City scene, and really the simplest way to get involved in any of the groups is to get on FetLife. I think you can just type in your zip code and it should print up all the events and or organizations that are in your area. And I would start possibly with going to Munches or going to, out here we have an organization called Society of Janus. They hold regular meetings and regular events and regular Munches. So I would highly recommend that if you really are trying to find a way in. So
Getting back to that, Janice will list member groups that they are affiliated with. I know in the DC area and East Coast there's a group called Black Rose. I'm not sure if they go all the way up to New York. I know there is a group in New York like the Society of Janice in San Francisco in New York. I'm not sure their name. You can go online and check. You can check with Janice. You might want to check with Black Rose Society.
yeah, Munchies are really great. I have just started going to them again. After about 5 years of feeling like I didn't need to go. And it's great fun. I'm running into people that I met like 25 years ago, and they're still in the scene. It's just like me, and so it can be great, and you can really make long-term friendships with people, which is really great in this community. So why don't you talk about your forum thing? Like, what is it about, and what kind of stuff is on there, and what you do?
This is the shorter version. It's an older form. I asked experience, how long have you been interested in the scene? Is this something that you just saw a movie or you read a book and you want to try it? Or is this something that you've been interested in a long time? What's your sexual orientation? There's a myriad of degrees that people are. I've played with everybody at one time or another: straight, gay, bi, transsexual, pansexual. If they're out there, I've played with them one time or another. What type of relationship are you looking for? Type of activities. Are you want to play in private only? You want to go to a club? Do you want to go to parties that are closed, parties that are open? How open do you want to be? What do you want to do? What are your interests? Are they psychological? Are they dom submissive? Are they sadomasochistic? All of the above, a combination of the above. What are you into? Are you into role play? That's another thing you have to look at. Locations, where you want to play. How, privately, clubs, clubs, parties, events, conventions. Or BDSM conventions. You want to go to a convention.
So you're really just after their preferences.
Right, what you're looking for. What are you, dominant, submissive, switch? You don't, if you're new, do you know?
Well, I would hope you know that when you first meet somebody, you're either a dom or a sub.
I've had people I've started with, one person in particular, she started out as a sub and she suddenly went to being a dom. She subbed for a few times.
That never happens.
No, never. I've had that happen a few times. They try it and they go, "Oh yeah, I kind of like this, but I want to be on the other side." So then I work with them and show them how to be, what to do for being a dom. Do you want sex in the scene? Is that a preference? Is that something you want, you don't want? I have certain limits. I don't necessarily go into them when I first talking to somebody. I want to know what their expectations are. There are things I will and will not do in the scene. And they're hard limits. And
yeah, so I have a question for John, since I just saw you pop up. So when you first meet your subs, do you express your limits before they it's for me, it's all interactive, but I assume that really more than likely the sub is going to have more hard limits than you are, therefore it's easier to listen to what the sub wants rather than you telling them what you're willing to give, basically. So I assume you approach it from that standpoint, but I don't know. Speak up.
Some people like punishment. Some people like pain. Those are things I want to know, especially on the pain issue. If somebody's very new, they may not know what their tolerances are. They've never experienced anything. And this is something you have to revisit constantly with a newbie or somebody who's a novice, is what level can you play at? Because their tastes are going to change, and they're going to change rapidly. What they thought the first session you played with them is a 10 or a 9 as far as pain level goes or impact level goes, after 3 or 4 sessions may suddenly become a 3.
So, Patty wanted to know about the Dom sub switching thing. And I started as a sub. I had no clue that I wanted to be a Dom. I just happened to have a friend that dragged me to one of her sessions one night. I knew she was a Dom. I had no idea what any of it meant. And it's actually pretty easy to flip from sub to Dom. I don't know if anybody has started as a Dom and then flipped to a sub, switch-wise or not. I suppose anything is possible, but I think the more natural tendency is to start as a sub and then move into being dominant. I love both equally. I just tend to be Dom more often because of, I don't know, it's just the way it works out. I have too many slaves that would prefer to play rather than one Dom that prefers to play with me.
Yeah, I'm the only person that would, play with you.
Yeah, right.
One thing I stress is marking the person's body. When you flog them, if you whip them, whatever you're doing. I don't leave marks. That's a personal preference. I've had so many clients that can't have marks, don't want marks, don't like them. I can do a full session, flog somebody till they're pink, and never leave a bruise. It's easy to leave marks, but I try to avoid it. Does a person want marks? If they are, where are they going to be placed? Can they be visible? I mean, a hickey is a mark. I mean, you want somebody running around with hickeys all over their body. Safe words. What is a person's safe word? I try to stick with red, yellow, and green. Red means stop right there, right now. You just stop. Yellow is check in with me or slow down. Green is I want more.
Women do mark much more easily than men do. That is true.
I've had a person I played with, and this gets back to hidden medical problems, that was on blood thinners. She was prone to blood clots. She didn't have any at the time, but she would bruise if you just looked at her hard. In her line of work, she couldn't have visible marks, so we changed what we would do. What floggers I would use, the type of play. We got more into bondage, edge play, which is nice play, things like this. I ask if they're into hot wax, fire, piercings. Some of these things will freak people out completely. Even if they're in a room watching it happen, they will just go wiggy.
Right. So once you find out what their preferences are, then what's like the process that you go through?
Once I find out what their preferences, with the forms I use, I mark it out. Depending on who the person is and what they're looking for. I might actually do like a lesson plan. Figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, and in what order.
That's actually not a bad idea.
So I'll start off with something light, work up to a light flogging, go into something a little heavier. If they're into bondage, I'll do something easy, wrists. Then maybe I'll do a body corset, working up to suspension, if they want to go that far. This way I can figure out or adjust the amount of time I'm going to spend with them, especially when I'm working with a client. How long do I want to spend with them? What do I want to do? Where do I want to put it? So I can bring them up to the top, let them climax, orgasm, have happy times, and then bring them back down. And not crash them, like take them up and then drop them 10 minutes into a play session. Then I'll go back and I'll revisit. What did you like? How did you like it?
Do you have your sub approve the plan? And worth covering RAC and SSC. I don't know what RAC and SSC is.
The plan is something I generally don't let them know what I'm going to do. I don't want them to have an idea of like, oh, I'm going to have this and I'm going to have that, and this is something I want. This is something I do to control what I'm going to do to them at a specific time frame. I mean, this is not chiseled in stone. I might change it. I have changed it. I will change it frequently in the middle of a session. It just depends how the session is running. I mean, I've had sessions where I'll session plan it and get into it and the whole thing crashes. Then you got to build up a whole new play set on the fly right then and there. I had somebody wanted a BDSM or a flogging session, started it, and they suddenly wanted to do straight dom sub work, and they were into military and discipline where they wanted to be berated. So no more flogging. Now I've got to play drill sergeant.
Safe and sane consensual versus risk aware. Yeah.
Yeah. For subs, now I've been working on a book and it covers from both the dom and the sub side. Never play with somebody until you negotiate with them. You're going to get people who are going to come and say, let's go play. And they'll drag you off and they're going to do whatever they want to do. You have no idea what they're into, what they like, who they are in many cases. Find out what they're into. See if it's a match.
What's the book called?
Oh, I haven't worked. I'm still.
He's working.
I'm working on it. I'm in my first rough draft, and I've got a working title, but.
If you're looking for a book that's currently out there, I would highly recommend SM 101 by Jay Weissman. It is the #1 best-selling book on this lifestyle, and so that's where I would go. It's available on Amazon. It's been in print since 1992.
Have you ever seen the person play before? I got a lot of people coming in because they had friends who'd seen me play. They knew, they had some idea, especially when I was doing demos at one of the clubs we go to, they have some idea of what to expect. You know, a friend had gone there and had seen me and they wanted to play. Do you trust them? And that goes for both sides, for dom and a sub. Do you trust the person you're playing with?
Yeah, trust and communication are absolutely the most important things for me.
I had a sub in the middle of the session. She had me go to her house. Flip out. She snapped. She had a psychotic break. She pulled a knife out and she came at me with a knife in the middle of a session.
Oh, great. We all have horror stories.
Yeah, you know. And it's like, oh God, okay, I can take the knife away from her, but which way do I want to do it that isn't going to break her wrist and get me thrown in jail for, you know, abuse? So I was able to keep enough distance between a table and I talked her down.
This is why it's really good to know people before you play. I can't stress this enough. I mean, personally, you know, finding somebody online and then just meeting them and then immediately talking about playing, I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I don't mind doing demos like in the clubs that we go to, where it's very tame, it's mild. I can introduce somebody to the scene so they sort of get an idea and then they can go explore it on their own. But yeah, that's a bit much to.
I mean, the person in question I had known, I had worked on them a couple of times at a club. I had, you know, they were friends socially with acquaintances of mine, and they just snapped out of the blue. I was later informed by one of my friends who'd known this person that, yeah, they had had problems and they wanted to see how long it took for me to figure it out. And I was like, oh, gee, thanks. Don't let a dom, if you're a sub, push you into something you don't want to do. You'll get people who hunt novices, and they will do what they want to do, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, the bottom, sorry for interrupting, but the bottom line here is you are both equals. There is nobody in power in this situation. Just because somebody gives themselves the label Dom and you give yourself the label Sub does not mean you have given up control. It is a completely equal footing all the way up until the moment you start to play. And hopefully by the time you get there, you've negotiated everything that you think is going to be required. So don't ever, and even once you start playing, I mean, that's why we have safe words. You can always stop. Topping from the bottom is the best thing in the world, and just don't let anything get out of hand. Nothing should ever get out of hand. As long as you're willing to stick up for yourself and don't ever do otherwise.
Know your limits. That goes for both the Dom and the Sub. I've seen people get into clubs who think they know what they're doing, Doms, and they get in way over their head. That's where they start hurting people, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how far to push it. They don't know how hard something is. That's when you really can run into a lot of problems. And same thing with the Sub. Don't tell a Dom, oh yeah, I have no limits. You can hit me as hard as you want. It's never going to hurt. You don't know that. I mean, you can run into somebody like me. I've been doing this since 75. I do construction for a living. If I haul back and really lay into somebody, I can do some real severe damage. Even being gentle and light can be hard or heavy for some people, especially if they're new.
Can I
sure.
say? See, for me, the way I do this is I'm sort of less rigid about the whole negotiation thing and the trying to figure out every detail about everybody. For me, it's everybody has to be on equal footing, and I really honestly believe that you always start slow and you work and build towards new experiences and new sensations, regardless of the experience level of anybody involved. Because really the bottom line is if you get a real sadist or a real masochist and you try to do a negotiation, the negotiation is, I have no rules, let's play. And literally that is actually true for some people. And while that seems extremely scary and can be extremely dangerous, it really is that variable. And so either way, always start slow, always just you have to keep the balance equal no matter what. When it gets right down to it, the Sub is always in control, even though the Dom will influence the session in a way that moves it one direction or another. So I think you just have to play slow and work up. And then you can avoid a lot of the having to find out everything up front. You can learn about a person as you go along, and everybody's going to have some really hard, fast limits that are pretty obvious and pretty easy to get through in a fairly timely manner without having to sit down in a restaurant for 3 hours going, do you like this? Do you like that? And so that's sort of the way I do it, and it's not necessarily the right way, and I know lots of people have lots of different ways of doing it. And in fact, hopefully here, Jay Weissman has agreed to do a scope with me here hopefully soon. So we'll get his input on it as well, because I know he has some great opinions about negotiating and how scenes should be played. So, do you want to add any more here?
Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable playing with somebody, don't do it for whatever reason, and that goes for a top too. you know, if you've got a sub who's...
Yeah, Jay is a friend. I've known him for about 25 years.
If you've got somebody who wants you to play with them and you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it. That's the big thing. If you can watch somebody play before you play with them, do that. See what their style is, what they like to do. If you're a sub, ask the person what you're going to do. Get a broad outline of what they're into. Don't just play with somebody, if you can, cold. Find out what they like, what they don't like, what their tastes are. And that goes for both sides. Just be really comfortable with the people you're playing with. And give them, and if you're a sub, honest feedback to the Dom. Don't tell the Dom what you think he wants to hear. Tell him how you're feeling, how it went for you. I mean, that's what, from a Dom standpoint, all we have to go with. I can watch a person's body language and that can tell me a lot. But unless I know from the person I'm working on whether or not they like it, dislike it, they want more, I can't really tell in some cases.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in feedback. I'm awful at reading people in regards of I can be flogging somebody, and to be perfectly honest, I've had them where they're in excruciating pain and they never said anything, and then I've had it just the opposite where they're thinking that this is like, could you actually like hit me? So I'm really awful at reading some people, and I'm just a firm believer in I would rather hear yellow and green 1,000 times in my first couple of sessions, because I will learn so much more that way than anything else, and I hopefully never ever hear the word red, and I should only ever hear the word red once. So that's sort of where I am with the whole feedback issue. I'd like to know when people want more or when they want less. So
yeah, I mean, it's...
Do you want to like summarize? Maybe we should sort of recap this and then get out of here.
Yeah, communications is really important. Find out as much as you can about what the people like. I use a checklist because it's easier for me. If I'm dealing with multiple people I'm playing with, I can just keep track of them that way. I also have on the other form I've got, and I'm going to put up on my website, a cover letter or cover sheet that gives me their scene name, their name, a contact number, and what that person that the contact can find out. I had a person I was playing with for several years. I had no way of getting hold of anybody if anything ever happened to them. At that point in time, I didn't even know they were married, which was a major shock when I did find out. Her husband was all right with it. As a matter of fact, enjoyed her going out and having her little play sessions. But it would have been nice to know if anything ever happened, who to get a hold of and how to get a hold of them. You may not live together, you may not really be that close. Hopefully you are. But it's nice to have that kind of information.
Okay. No, I'm pretty much done. I sort of said my piece, and we'll probably cover this ground more times in the future. I just wanted to do a little quick scope to kill some time today, and hopefully I'd like to be able to do these more regularly as maybe I become more comfortable with staring at a stupid camera rather than a human being. So I will probably try to do more of these on a more regular basis. So I appreciate everybody coming by. Of course, replays can be found on catch.me. In fact, all of my stuff can be found on catch.me/MistressXmas. I can be reached at FetLife under MistressXmas XMAS. And or you can email me directly, Megan@MistressXmas.com. You can spell it however you like. All of them should work. And I don't know if anybody has any last minute questions. Thank you. Well, everybody, you're welcome. I love all the turkeys. It's nice to see turkeys instead of hearts.
My website is theruthless.com, and I will hopefully get this form, the correct one, up fairly soon, like within a week or less.
Yeah, he has a lot of crazy pictures from the exotic erotic balls that we did.
And a few things on classes. I've done papers on how to flog, how to build toys. I built a lot of toys.
All right, so we will say goodbye for another day, and thanks everybody for coming. Bye-bye. Okay, kill it.
I'll let you kill it.